Today we will start with the energy and respiration. Okay. We will cover not all of the content of the syllabus today. We will go through outline the need of energy, why ATP is the source or the currency of energy, and how it will be sensitized. And I will introduce the aerobic respiration and may start and the glycolysis, and inshallah we'll finish it. Okay. We had or we learned some about of that topic in IGCSE, not in AS level. We learned what's respiration or what is cellular respiration. Okay, who can remind me what was the definition that you used to say about respiration?
Burning of oxygen to release energy. Burning of glucose or sugar to release energy.
Yeah, but it's not a must to be with oxygen, because we learned also that respiration could be aerobic in the presence of oxygen, could be anaerobic without oxygen, right? But overall, we used to tell you that it is a chemical reaction or a process that releases energy from the food. Is it clear? Okay.
Yes.
Right. And we learned also, why do we need energy? We have to eat, and after eating and digestion and absorption, there is assimilation, and the most important process that takes place in the assimilation is respiration to release energy. Okay, if we will not eat, we will not respire, we will die, right? Because this energy needed for very important life process. Without it, we will not be able to survive. Okay, so all of the living things, plants, animal, prokaryotes, they have to respire. Multicellular organisms, unicellular organisms, they have to respire. Otherwise, they will be die. Okay, the same. Yani, for a human being, we cannot do anaerobic respiration to maintain our life. Only anaerobic respiration restricted in muscles if there are activity or exercise which start to be suddenly. That's why your body, yani, or the muscles can shift from aerobic to anaerobic, buying time till the oxygen and enough blood supply is coming, right? If there is no oxygen, okay, so all of the other cells will not do aerobic respiration. There will be branded, we will die. So respiration, it's a life process which must happen to maintain the survival of most of the living organisms. Okay. Okay, so why do we need energy? Why do we need energy? We are supposed to be familiar with that part. We need energy, okay, to do work like muscle contraction. Okay, I will show you here like simple diagram to show how smooth muscle contract. Smooth muscle contract, which found in our vessels, in the digestive system, in the alimentary canal, or in the trachea, for example. Smooth muscle which work by the pressure of the contents of the organs, right? So it needs energy, right? You see, ATP here mean energy is used. Okay, if there is no energy, that work will stop, right? This is most muscles which are responsible for the movement of the internal organs, right? Skeletal muscles that we are moving to run, to walk, to do activity, right? And this needs large amount of energy, right? So we need, okay, energy to do work. Okay, we need energy also for active transport, right? That process never will be stopped. Yani we had what we call basal metabolic rate. What is basal metabolic rate? This is the metabolism which is taking place inside your body while you are sleeping. You do nothing. there is use of energy during that time? Yes. One of the most process which use the most of this energy is the process of active transport. What is the active transport? The movement of molecule from area of low concentration to the area of higher concentration using energy in the form of ATP, right? Okay, we had that in details in AS level, right? This transportation across the cell surface membrane from inside the cell or outside the cell, right? There is other type of transportation we discussed before in AS level, which is exocytosis and endocytosis, and these two related to the bulk transportation. If you remember from the AS level, bulk transportation, when the cell will engulf, eat. Okay, and we familiar from that word since we were in IGCSE, phagocytosis, which is made by lymphocytes, at which the white blood cells or B lymphocyte engulf and digest. Engulf here mean eat. It's eating the bacteria or the large molecules which cannot go through or across the cell surface membrane by the normal method, which is osmosis or diffusion. This process needs energy, yes, and we learned that last year. I will show you the video to remind you.
And the Golgi apparatus, or from endosomes or lysosomes within the cytosol. The vesicles, which may contain newly synthesized proteins.
If you remember that part, we had it in AS level. It's talking about protein synthesis and how it will be modified. It's made in the rough endoplasmic reticulum, then will be carried. Okay, it's movement inside the cell, which is needs energy also to Golgi apparatus. Golgi apparatus will modify and pack it into another vesicles, which exported outside of the cell. The internal movement of vesicles inside the cell or the exportation of the products made by the cell outside, all of that needs energy. You got it?
Proteins or waste products then move toward the plasma membrane, fuse.
You see, this is the process of exocytosis when the
And the
vesicles
contents of
fuse
the
with the
vesicle
cell
are
membrane and
expelled
released
into the
outside.
extracellular fluid.
Okay, the opposite of this process of exocytosis, right? We will have endocytosis also. Here you can see the cell, okay, make cytoplasmic extension, right, which will close or fuse together and trap the body or the bacteria or whatever it's engulfing, right? And this is called phagocytic vesicles or vacuole. Okay, and this is the phagocytosis, the movement of the cytoplasmic extension and close the vacuole or making that phagocytic vacuole or vesicles, all that needs energy. Is it clear, right? So what are the needs for energy? What are the needs for energy? Transportation out or inside the cells, or transportation inside the cell. We saw in that video how the vesicles will move from one organelle to another, work like muscle contractions. Any activity will be made by the body or the organs inside the body, right? And anabolic reaction. What is anabolic reaction? Let me remind you, okay, last year when we were talking about the enzymes, right? We was saying that catabolic reactions and anabolic reactions. What is the difference between these two reactions? First of all, these two make what we call metabolic reaction. Catabolic reaction, catabolic mean breaking down, mean breakdown. Anabolic it's built, okay, up. Okay, we will build up. Like what? Protein synthesis, making lipid by bonding fatty acid with glycerol, making glycogen from glucose. You got it? Okay. This building up reactions, right, needs energy. Okay, but catabolic, it's opposite. When we break bonds, okay, or you're breaking substance in our body, sometimes it releases energy. Okay, you got my point? Okay, so again, let's summarize what are the uses of energy. Number one, we can say transport, including active transport. Okay, bulk transportation, including exocytosis and endocytosis. Metabolic reaction, like anabolic reaction. Point number three, work, like muscle contraction. Okay, also the transportation of nerval impulse. Okay, it is happen by making difference in the potential, which need active transport, movement of ion, or the flow of ion in the neurons. It's also needs energy, right? We can say about action, potential, and nerves. Is it clear? You have any doubt about that part? Okay. If you notice here, energy found in the form of ATP, right? I would like to say something. When we eat, right, we eat in carbohydrate, and we learned that carbohydrate, okay, are source of energy. Did you ask yourself why our body or our cells not to use glucose directly? Why we have to do respiration and convert the glucose into ATP? First of all, you should know that glucose as well as the ATP, both of them are chemical potential energy. Both of them are chemical are chemical potential energy. Okay. What does it mean? Both of them, they have energy which is trapped in the bonding between the molecules. Did you ask yourself why our cells or our body will not use glucose directly? No, respiration have to happen and glucose must be converted into ATP, otherwise you will die. No respiration. Okay. Okay, what about plants? What about plants? Plants, they are doing the process of photosynthesis, at which they will use the sunlight to make the glucose in the process of photosynthesis, right? Okay, fine. Plants cannot use the sunlight directly. The plant will convert the sunlight into ATP. Then ATP will be used to do the process of photosynthesis to make glucose. Then we will eat the glucose and respire and make the ATP. If you remember last year in IGCSE, we were saying photosynthesis, it will produce glucose. And respiration will take the glucose and produce carbon dioxide and ATP and water. Carbon dioxide and water will be recycled again in the chloroplast and energy will be used. Okay, so even plants to make the process of photosynthesis will not use directly the sunlight. There is a process first, light reaction, which will happen to convert it into ATP, then photosynthesis will happen. If there is no light reaction, no ATP will be formed, so no photosynthesis will happen. Okay, so any energy mediated process, whatever need or release energy, it depends on ATP use or production, right? Okay, طب what is the ATP molecule, right? So ATP could be released from respiration, used in photosynthesis. It means the light reaction which use photons to make ATP, then that ATP will use for the process of photosynthesis or chemosmosis, this the mechanism by which the ATP will be sensitized. You got it? Okay. Type, what is the structure of ATP? Right? ATP, it stands for adenosine triphosphate. ATP, ATP stands for adenosine, okay, okay. Type, can I draw the structure of ATP? Yes. Adenosine, it comes from adenine. It is one of the nucleotides that we learned in AS level, right? Adenine, it is type of the purine bases, if you remember, okay, which is nitrogen base. And here there is NH2. You need to memorize the structure of the adenine base. This alone, it's adenine. Adenine nitrogen base. Okay, this adenine nitrogen base bonded to ribose sugar. Okay, this is ribose sugar, 5-membered sugar, right? Okay. Ribose and adenine, both of them called adenosine. So you understand now from where the word adenosine came. Tri, it's bonded to, okay, 3-phosphate group. 1, 2, 3. That's why it's called triphosphate. So if there are 2 phosphate group, and if I will remove that, so it will be diphosphate adenosine, so we will call it ADP, adenosine triphosphate, adenosine diphosphate. If there is 1, it will be adenosine monophosphate AMP. Is it clear? Okay, so this is the structure of the ATP. Okay, now my question is, okay, why ATP? Why ATP is universal energy currency. Why? Why especially ATP? There are a lot of molecules which could release energy, but why ATP is the universal energy currency? I will tell you. First of all, phosphate easily can be hydrolyzed from that structure. Yani the bonding here, okay, easy to be broken and reformed. Yani there is hydrolysis, okay, of ATP could happen. I just will put it down, then put it back again, okay. Here, like ATP can be hydrolyzed reversibly in a reversible reaction to give ADP plus phosphate. Okay, this is reversible. It means adenosine diphosphate could react with the phosphate to give back adenosine triphosphate. And this, in reaction, which includes hydrolysis of phosphate group, it gives energy. Here it gives 30.5 kilojoule per mole. Okay. Again, ADB could be hydrolyzed also to give adenosine monophosphate plus phosphate plus 30.5 energy kilojoule, right? And adenosine monophosphate, this is the last hydrolysis, it will give, okay, adenosine plus phosphate. This release only 14.2 kilojoules. The most important thing here, it is reversible reaction. And this is very important, okay? Because if I will take the carbon dioxide, the glucose, and I will do combustion or break down the glucose molecule into carbon dioxide and water, it will not be easily reverse it back to give glucose one more time. So remember, ATP in our body like batteries. What do you mean by batteries? And here, muscle contraction. This muscle contract. It will take ATP to be hydrolyzed to give ADP plus energy, right? That ATP will be taken by the mitochondria, right? To be recharged back into ATP. Then it will go to release energy again for the process of muscle contraction. That's why it's rechargeable batteries found in our body made, okay, in the mitochondria, hydrolyzed during the metabolic reaction or the reactions which require energy or the activity which require energy. Then again, it will go back to the mitochondria to be recharged one more time. You understand? Okay, so ATP molecule easily to be hydrolyzed and release energy, right? And it's reversible, so it can form it again by the phosphorylation of ADP to give ATP. What else? It's a small molecule, soluble in water, easily can be taken by the cells, okay? Stable, and ATP, no way to be hydrolyzed in that way without ATP enzyme. If ATP enzyme not found, okay, no hydrolysis. Even at very high pH in the bladder, urinary bladder, for example, pH may be 10 or 9 in our body, no, it will not be hydrolyzed. Low pH in the stomach, 1 or 2, it will not. Without ATPase, will not hydrolyze, so it's stable, right? Found in all cells, all living cells, plants, animals, it has ATP, right? So it's universal energy currency. You got it? The rate of turnover is very high. I told you the reaction will happen quickly. ATP will go back to the mitochondria to be recharged by the process of synthesis of ATP, right? So it's very fast, and this exactly what our bodies need because of high metabolic rate inside the living cells, okay? Right? It's immediate donor of energy. Immediate donor of energy. It's giving energy very fast to the cells requiring energy. And it is the mediate or the intermediate between reactions that require energy and the other reactions which donate energy. You understand? Up till now, we are okay? Right? So if I asked, or I want to summarize all of that, why ATP is an energy currency or universal energy currency? First, it's a small soluble molecule, easily can be taken by the cell, found in all cells, high rate of turnover. It can be hydrolyzed easily and release energy in a reversible reaction, right? It's immediate donor of energy. It's intermediate between reactions or the cells which have reactions that require energy and the other cell which have reactions that donate energy. You understand? It's very stable. Never will be hydrolyzed without the presence of ATPase enzyme. Is it clear for all of you? Okay. right? So if we would like, okay, to write about that part, right? Why ATP is energy currency, right? Okay. First of all, it's a short term of storage of energy. We do not use to store ATP. Your body not storing ATP at all. We can store glycogen fats, but not used to store energy, right? A hydrolysis of ATP is quick process, immediate transfer of energy, right? Okay. Found in all of cells or organisms, right? In hydrolysis, it releases energy, as we said here in the reversible reaction, right? Link yielding and energy require reaction between the cells, high rate of turnover, hydrolysis of ATP. It releases enough amount of energy, which is can يعني enough to make a live process. يعني 30.5 kilojoule, it's a very large amount of energy, which is enough for many biological process, right? It's stable, never will be hydrolyzed if ATP enzyme, ATPase enzyme not found, okay? Is it clear? This question came before. Describe the features of ATP that make it suitable as universal energy currency. Right? This question came before, carrying like 6 marks. I think it was 2018 variant 1, paper 4.1. Okay? Right? Okay, one more time for ATP synthesis, right? It takes place by mechanism which is called chemosmosis. It takes place in the mitochondria, right? In the mitochondria, it's called oxidative phosphorylation because the energy which is released to make that phosphorylation reaction released by oxidation reaction, right? In the mitochondria, we have inner membrane and outer membrane. In between them, there is intermembrane space. I enlarged that part here, okay? Here it is the structure of the inner membrane, okay, of the mitochondria, right? And here is the inner membrane space, okay? Each time oxidation will happen, okay, energy will be released to pump the proton from the matrix to the intermembrane space. Is it clear? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So this will create what we called electrochemical gradient. What does it mean? More proton ion will be found in the intermembrane space, less than the matrix, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Electrochemical gradient, it means there is difference in the concentration or in the potential of the intermembrane space and the matrix. So the proton have to go back as it was because it's bumped, يعني طلعت غصب عنه من هنا لهنا because of the oxidation reaction, but it will go back to its original place, which is the matrix, right? It will go back by mechanism of transportation called facilitated diffusion, not simple diffusion. Simple diffusion of the substance will go through the cell membrane. No, it will not go through the cell membrane because it's positive ion, and ions cannot go through the membrane because the membrane is a thin layer of oil, right? Bilayer phospholipid. There is here core, which is made of oil, not allowing polar substance or charged particles to go through it. So facilitation here, it's made by protein channel called the proton channel, which give a pathway for the proton to go back with its concentration level. When the proton will go back from area which is more positive relative to the matrix, it releases energy. This energy will be used to make phosphorylation of ADP into ATP by the help of AT Atb synthase enzyme. We got it now? Who can say it now? Whatever you understood, say. I will help you to memorize it. Yani I will correct you and help you to memorize it. Who can say?
Okay, I'll try.
Yes.
Okay, so basically in the mitochondria, there is an outer membrane and an inner membrane, and an inner membrane space. So in the inner membrane space, when oxidation takes place, the protons
The oxidation reaction releases energy, which pumps the
yeah,
proton from the
which pumps the
matrix.
protons, the matrix to the inner membrane
Enter
space.
membrane space. Yes.
Space. So then there are more protons in the intermembrane space compared to the matrix.
Yes.
So they are moved back. They're like pumped back into the
No,
matrix
they will go
by
back.
some kind of diffusion.
Yeah,
I don't remember the
facilitative
name.
diffusion. There will be the electrochemical potential gradient or electrochemical gradient, which will make the proton go back to the matrix through proton channels by facilitated diffusion. Okay?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then, by the use of ATP synthesis, we can recycle the ADP into ATP.
Don't say recycle. That the movement of the proton from the intermembrane space to the matrix, it releases energy, which used to phosphorylate ADP into ATP, catalyzed by Atb synthase enzyme. Okay? And each three proton, as I told you, are enough to move from here to here to make phosphorylation of one ATP.
So the protons are moved from the matrix to the intermembrane space.
Yes.
By facilitated diffusion or by
no
diffusion?
You said pump. Pump mean here it's by energy, and this energy is released by oxidative phosphorylation. So oxidation reaction will happen in the inner membrane space of the mitochondria or in the crystia. This releases energy that pumps the proton from the matrix to the intermembrane space. Clear? Okay. When you will use the word pump or energy, never say the word diffusion. Okay? Okay. So this will make the proton will be accumulated in the intermembrane space that will create electrochemical gradient between the intermembrane space and the matrix. Okay? Could you repeat it again?
The protons are pumped from the matrix to the intermembrane space due to the oxidation reaction that occurs in the intermembrane crystal.
Inner or crystia.
Crystia, where eventually the protons will be accumulated in the intermembrane space, creating an electrochemical gradient between the intermembrane space and matrix.
Excellent. Go on.
Then the protons will
go back with its concentration gradient.
They will go back into the matrix against their concentration gradient.
No, not against. It's with. Because here is more proton and here there is less proton. So it's going with the concentration gradient from high concentration to low concentration. That's why I used the word diffusion, right?
Yeah.
Diffusion, it's movement of substance from high concentration to low concentration. So this is definitely is diffusion, but facilitated diffusion because there must be channels which will give them pathway to go from high concentration to low concentration. You got it?
Yes.
Okay. Say it again.
Okay. The protons will be pumped from the matrix to the intermembrane space due to the oxidation reaction that occurs in the intermembrane crystal.
inner
then
مش enter اسمه inner
membrane crystal
inner
where
membrane
eventually
or crystia يعني you can use inner membrane or crystia okay
okay
huh.
where the protons will eventually accumulate in the intermembrane space,
yes
creating an electrochemical gradient between the intermembrane and the matrix.
yes
Protons will move from the intermembrane space to the matrix down the concentration gradient by facilitated diffusion
yes
using the channel
protein
protein,
channel yeah all right each 3 proton pass through the protein channel or release enough energy to phosphorylate one ATP molecule using ATP synthesis. Okay? Is it okay for all of you? طيب, let me watch the video. Let's see the video. Okay? Then I will go back to revise it and explain it one more time, and one of you will explain it one more time. Then we will write it together. Clear? Okay?
Our body is made up of trillions of cells. They all require energy to function. This energy is created within our cells, in the mitochondria. Here, food is converted into chemical energy called ATP. ATP is released by the mitochondria so cells can use it. Mitochondria consist of two membranes, an outer membrane, separating it from the cytosol, and an inner membrane, surrounding the so-called matrix. The area between these membranes is called the intermembrane space. ATP is generated at the inner membrane of mitochondria by an efficient mechanism called oxidative phosphorylation, involving several membrane protein complexes. Nutrients provide high-energy electrons in the form of NADH, which are used by the protein complexes to pump protons from the matrix to the
About the net H or that, this is the oxidation which will happen. We will talk about that later. Only focus on the process of chemosmosis, which is the formation of ATP, okay?
intermembrane space. This continuous pumping creates a proton gradient, where the positively charged protons are attracted to the more negative matrix. When the protons re-enter the matrix through the ATP synthase protein complex, they catalyze the production of ATP.
You got it? Okay. You got it? Huh? So I will repeat it one more time, then we'll write it together. Then anyone of you will say it again. Again, the process of ATP synthesis takes place inside the mitochondria, especially at the crystia or the inner membrane space, right? Here, there is oxidation reaction is taking place, right? That oxidation reaction releases energy, which pumps the proton from the matrix, okay, to the membrane space, which is found between the inner and outer membrane. So the proton will move, okay, from here to here. Okay. This will create electrochemical gradient between the intermembrane space and the matrix, right? So the proton will go back with its concentration gradient through proton channels, proton channels, by process called facilitated diffusion. Okay, the proton channels ends up with ATP synthesis. So each 3 proton passes from the intermembrane space to the matrix, releases enough energy to phosphorylate 1 ADP into ATP by ATP synthase enzyme. Okay? Right. Let's write it together. Maybe if we write it, it will make it easier for you. Okay? Right. So here, ATP synthesis in mitochondria. Right? It takes place in the inner membrane, or what we called Christian, due to the oxidation of reduced NADH. Later we will talk about that, but from now you can learn about that. Okay, I will write it in a simpler way: reduced NAD and fat. Okay, this one we'll learn later. Next session we will learn about reduced NAD and reduced fat. Right? Energy is released to pump, okay, protons from the matrix to the intermembrane space. Up to now we are fine with that part? Huh?
Yes.
Okay. So oxidation reaction happen. Okay. Energy is released to pump the proton from here to the intermembrane space here. Right? Okay. So more proton will be accumulated in the intermembrane space more than the matrix. Right? Okay. That, okay, creates, right, or creating
An electrochemical gradient.
an electrochemical gradient of protons between the matrix and intermembrane space. Is it fine for you?
Yes.
Okay. What is the next step? Who can remind me? The proton will go back with its concentration gradient, right? Protons will go back with its concentration, okay, through proton channels that end with ATP synthase enzyme. Is it clear? So the proton will go back with its concentration gradient through proton channel that ends up by Atb enzyme by facilitative diffusion. So when the proton will move from here, from the intermembrane space to here to the matrix, it releases energy for the phosphorylation of ATP into ATP. You got my point, right? The flow of proton releases energy for the phosphorylation or to phosphorylate ADP into ATP, which is catalyzed by, okay, ATP synthase enzyme. Okay, also you should know that each 3 protons release energy that enough to synthesize 1 ATP. Is it clear? So this process called chemosmosis. This process called what? chemosmosis. What is chemosmosis? It is the synthesis of ATP using energy released by movement of hydrogen ion, okay, down their concentration gradient across a membrane in the mitochondria or chloroplast. Right? You understand what is chemosmosis now? So here, phosphorylation of ADP into ATP, if it will take place in the mitochondria and chloroplast, I will call it chemosmosis. Chemosmosis. Why it has that name? Because it depends on the flow of proton from high concentration to low concentration. It means diffusion in the mitochondria or the chloroplasts. You understand? Other process of phosphorylation, it is substrate level phosphorylation. Any energy released by any other mechanism, not diffusion of proton across a membrane, it's called substrate level phosphorylation. Who can say it again? Who can say the chemosmosis or the synthesis of ATP in the mitochondria? Who can say it again? Shall we try in the chloroplast? Let me show you how the ATP will be sensitized in the chloroplast. The structure of chloroplasts, there is outer membrane. Okay, there is inner membrane called thylakoid membrane, which have structures that called grana. This is sacs filled with fluid called grana. This is chloroplast. This is outer membrane. And this as a whole, this sacs together called the grana, which is made of thylakoid membrane. Yani that membrane which making the grana, it's called thylakoid membrane. Type. I will enlarge that part. Here inside the chloroplast, in the mitochondria, there is matrix. Here is stroma. The media inside the chloroplast called stroma. I will enlarge that part. So this is the membrane of the grana or thylakoid membrane. Okay, this is the thylakoid membrane. So expected now in the thylakoid membrane there is proton channel, which you end up with ATP synthase enzyme, right? Okay, in that side there is a stroma. Here, the other side of the thylakoid membrane could be the internal of grana or the other side of the thylakoid membrane. Okay, here inside grana مثلا. grana يعني الوحدة. Okay, طيب. Because of the light, there will be energy released here, which هنا light, okay, will start oxidation phosphorylation, يعني oxidative reaction also, or in protein complex. The proton will be pumped from the stroma to the other side of the thylakoid membrane, creating difference in the potential gradient. Okay, the proton will go back with its concentration gradient by facilitative diffusion through protein channel for the protein-proton channel, which ends up with ATP synthase, right? 3 protons needed to create 1 ATP or to do phosphorylation for ADP into ATP. Okay, so this again ATP synthase enzyme. Okay, If you want to know how this channel work, يعني there is like كده rod which represents the channel of protein. And the ATPase enzyme made up of 3 parts, alpha and beta and gamma, like that. Okay. And if this one, يعني when the proton will pass, يعني this is not needed يعني in our syllabus, but I want you to fulfill. If the proton will pass through the channel will rotate in that direction. And the enzyme will rotate in the other direction. Okay, يعني opposite to each other. If one proton will pass, ADP and phosphate will be bonded to the enzyme. This is for the first proton. Second proton, ATP will be formed. Third proton, ATP will be released. It happens like that. You understand? So all the story here of that chemosmosis is what? Any energy will make the proton will be accumulated in one side of the membrane than the other side. So the proton will go back to its channel, releasing energy, which will make phosphorylation of ATP into ATP. Is it clear? Huh? You have a doubt about that part? Tell me if you want me to revise anything one more time. Everything is clear up till now?
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. There is another keyword here, which is substrate linked reaction or level phosphorylation. Here, the ATP formation, okay, or the phosphorylation of ADP into ATP will be provided by energy from other chemical reaction which is taking place inside the cell. You understand? From substrate molecule directly to the ADP. You got it? That's why it's called substrate level reaction. We will have example about that next session, inshallah, when we'll start the glycolysis. Now, before leaving the session, right, I would like to make like self-assessment for you before going. Okay. Who can tell me what is the meaning of chemosmosis? What is the meaning of chemosmosis? Huh?
I can. Teacher.
Yeah.
I can. The synthesis of ATP using the energy released by the movement of hydrogen ions across
a membrane
in the mitochondria or the
chloroplast. Okay. Right. Okay. What is the meaning? What is the structure of ATP? I will allow you to annotate and you can draw it in the board. Who can draw ATP on the board? The structure of ATP. Or at least it's made up of adenosine triphosphate, right? Which has 3 components: adenine, nitrogen base, and ribose sugar, and 3 phosphate group, right? Okay, so that's we finish for today. Okay, I will send you the material on our group, WhatsApp group, for the notes. The whiteboard I will send you, and then I will send you the PDF notes for the whole chapter. Okay.